sleeves that she's going to sell at the store. And the nice thing is I get my buckets from a Korean restaurant, so I get them for free, and then I just buy the sleeves and I cut the holes. But on Craigslist, I put a handout at the table. On Craigslist, she bought a bunch of these buckets, but there's places in LA and Riverside County where you can buy the buckets for $1 a piece. You can buy a whole pallet of them for you can get a better deal. It's better than buying the black ones at the nursery, because it's a 5-gallon, full-size 5-gallon for $1. And that's where this all comes in. To create a healthy and hand-free environment that you can leave in, like what he mentioned, for 2 years or more. I'll show a picture here in a second of a seedling I bought here 4 years ago, and it's now over 6 feet tall, and it stayed in that container for that 4 years. It's split and it's bloomed twice. So one of the reasons I chose air pruning, that's what I have to grow. That's my back garage deck, so it's about the size of a car. And my forward area is just, front yard is just inside that round area, but there's about 75 to 100 plumerias at any given time. Talking about air pruning, where he was talking about the roots binding up on themselves. So this is one that I had grown at Southwestern College. And in July I give a class at Southwestern College in Chula Vista, and then whatever I sell plant-wise goes into they have a 4-acre botanic garden. And I pulled this one up last year, and you can see how bad the roots were bound. So what I did is I put a laundry basket. Whoop. That's a laundry basket from the dollar store. And then one of my paint strainers. These paint strainers are, I found, one time I found 25 of them for $17 on Amazon. But you can see how much that holds. This is just like he had in his video, that green one, when he was at the blocks, but he wants a lot of money for the same thing. And if I can get them for $1 a piece, this is the way I'm going to do it. One of the other things that I adapted was a dollar store trash can. So if you like having your plants in a ceramic container, then you can put the liner in this and then sit this in the ceramic container. Then you've got the air pruning area where the water evaporates faster, and you also have where the roots hit. What happens is the roots hit the mesh, and that's the air pruning. The root, once the root hits the mesh, it pinches itself off, which is healthy for the plant, because if it's growing in the soil and it hits a rock and it can't get around the rock, it pinches itself and it just starts sprouting new roots and new branches in different directions. And so that's the same thing what this does. The roots hit that, they pinch themselves off, and they just start growing in a different direction, like what the doctor was saying with his containers. So here's another example. This is a cloth sack. One of the first things I tried was using weed block. And so I would just line the inside of the bucket with weed block and then fill it with soil. And the nice thing with that is with all these holes in here, you're not getting roots to stick to anything, and you can grab the plant right by the stalk, like what he was doing, and just yank the whole thing out, and it all slides out, the soil falls off, and then you see where your roots are, and then you can add new soil in and then slide it right back into the same container, because it keeps pushing its roots and killing its roots off and keeping that little small ball of roots. It's going to absorb most of the water and nutrients through that small ball than a big fat root that just keeps growing around in a circle.
And that's what's going to create our bigger stems.
Yes. So here's another one, same thing, in a sack. I don't like to sew, but I know how. But I was sewing them myself, and I decided I don't want to sit here at the sewing machine. I'd rather have a pre-made bag and then just throw it right in. Here's what I was talking about. So those containers he was showing at $21.99 a piece for a 5-gallon container I can make for $2. And that's why you see those there. This is the one I bought from Dave 4 years ago, and this is the original container. All I had was holes at the bottom. That's about 5 feet right there where it finally bloomed. And I didn't put it in here, but I had a picture with me standing next to it, and it's taller than I am. Then this is when I pulled the root ball out, kind of like what the video showed with the doctor. And then there's the new container on that side. And I changed my holes up because that's a lot of drilling. It takes a long time to do that one. Whereas this larger one with that bit that I had from Amazon, it's on the paper and it's also on the table, this I can do in about 5 to 10 minutes. That one took about 30 minutes to drill the holes. Chico Man soy sauce. So here's another one that I picked this one up when it was about 18 inches tall, and it was just in a one gallon container. I moved it to this bucket here when I first started 4 years ago playing with the whole system. It bloomed. It took about 5 feet before it bloomed. It's now over 6 feet. Well, okay, so 3 feet. It's over 6 feet tall. It already has inflows on 4 of those tips, and it seems to be pushing out inflows at a 3-inch tip rather than going 8 inches or longer before it produces an inflow. It's bloomed every year since it did its first bloom. I put water on it. The water runs out of the bucket. Whatever's left over just runs down on the ground, and then everything else is absorbed and then evaporated. And I just water once a week like everything else. Some more examples of the buckets that I've done.
Do you use a different type of soil?
I mix the cactus soil. I throw some core in there. I throw some alfalfa, and I throw lots of perlite. Or like last year when we had the meeting at the OC, I bought 2 or 3 bags of the pumice. But when you put pumice in this size of a bucket and try to carry it around, it's heavy. Yes? Alfalfa meal, and it adds nitrogen to the soil. I like the bigger hole better because it takes less time. I haven't really seen a difference in any way of doing it. And then I came across this picture a couple weeks ago on YouTube, and the guy's making his own air pruning pots also because he doesn't want to spend the money. But that's just a seed tray, stood on its side and then bent on itself. And then you just put 2 zip ties on it, and then you put something on the bottom to hold the soil in. The roots grow out to those points. You can see the holes here, so that when the roots hit these holes, they pinch themselves off and they start growing back into the container. Ernesto Sandoval came and visited the Southcoast Plumeria Society in San Diego a couple of years ago, 2 years in a row, and he brought this book down. And I went ahead and I bought it. You can get it on Amazon fairly cheap. There's a chapter on potting, growing in pots, and they talk about chemical air pruning. Back in the day when it was still legal in California, they would sprinkle, I think it was called some type of copper sulfide. They sprinkle it on the inside of the plant container. The plant's roots would touch it. They would burn themselves off and then hopefully start growing again. But now you're adding that. And then as you start watering, that copper is leaching into the ground, and so my way's better. This is the chapter that kind of talks about what the chemicals, when they were doing it in chemicals, but you can see in the pictures also here's the doctor's containers. And then I tried these out, they didn't work very good, so I gave up on them. And it was $20 for 1 tray. And so I pretty much start them. When I'm doing, I do a lot of seedlings, but I just do seedlings the same way. I don't do seedlings in the containers he's talking about. I only do the air pruning with large cuttings. And I can put a good sized cutting in a bucket. Like I said, you saw the pictures, 4 years. I'm adding stuff over the top all the time because I don't fill the bucket completely full, and I can always slide it and move it around because it doesn't get solid right against the walls of the container. There's the copper stuff on the left. And then the picture to the right of the one shows where the chemical is burning off the roots and allowing the plant to grow. A no-no in California. Here's the drill bit that's from Amazon, and it's on the handout. I printed up, I think probably more than enough for everyone to get one. But the drill bit, real simple. Whatever size hole you want to drill, you just push it in that far. If you want to go with the full depth, then you just push it right in. It only takes a couple, maybe 10 seconds to drill that hole. It's pretty easy. Here's where I found the cloth. The bag's the cheapest. So it's $15.58 plus $5.38 and change for shipping. But you can get them at Home Depot sometimes, and then I've gotten them on Amazon where it was a Prime thing too. And sometimes you'll see the box has been damaged, and then they just sell it because it's a damaged box. So I'll buy whatever they have available for future use. Here's where I was talking about Craigslist for buckets. A buck a piece. That's what we have over in the store. Any questions? Do I deliver? I'd rather you come pick up down at the border, but I only live 8 miles north of Chulabit. I have a really nice growing climate there, so it's really working out well. The seedling that I got from Dave didn't drop its leaf this year until I saw the leaf hopper. And I sent a picture to Linda, and she said, get rid of those leaves. So I chopped them all off.
So with regards to the size of the hole that you drill in the bucket, aside from the time spent, which size or diameter would you recommend is best to use?
Besides the fact that it took time to do it, I like the bigger holes better because it allows that drainage faster. But I'll pour a gallon of water over the top once a week, and I can see all the water dripping out. So I'll do it over an old pond, one of those little tiny ponds from Lowe's.
Yeah.
And then that way I recapture what water went through, and then I just pour that on the next one and keep going until the pond is full.
Do you water more often?
Do I water more often?
Yes.
No, I still try to keep it once a week, but I do a lot of what Dave Canisius has suggested, and I do a lot of foliar watering. And I try to just keep the roots dry. The nice thing with this is if I pour a gallon of water on there, I know it's going to drain. I put it on a solid black container and then thought, it's been a week, maybe I can put more water. But when I put the water meter in there, it's still wet down at the bottom. And so that's why this really works out well. Because in addition to the holes on the top, the bottom is as many holes as I can put in there to allow the drainage. Here's the assembly. After I've drilled the holes, obviously. This sleeve right here is a paint strainer for a 5-gallon bucket if you've ever seen anybody paint a house. So if you're using a spray rig to paint a house, this is how you keep your gun from getting clogged with little bits of paint that are, dried chips in the paint. And so once this is in like this, you can put your soil in, add your plant, and then add soil to the top and let it grow. And let it for 2 to 3 years, like what the doctor said. Much cheaper than any way that I found, and that's why I've stuck with it and keep developing it. Yeah, I have tape that I would have put on too, but two-handed. I put tape around the top, and I can show that, but I'd have to set the mic down. Thanks for asking. So I just wrap it with electrical tape, and just to keep it in place so it doesn't slip. But once the soil's there and it's loose, it's not really going to go anywhere because it's about 6 inches taller than the depth of the bucket. Linda?
What was that name of that doctor that...
I'll read it for you. said, the DVD is available at the website. If you look up that rootmaker.com, I just clicked on the bottom left-hand side and they sent me the DVD. Any other questions? I think that would work really well. She asked about plunging the plumerias. So if you took this bucket and put it in the soil and still left this like this, when it comes time for winter, you could leave that bucket in the soil, pull it right out. It's going to slide out like you slide your sock off your foot. That's how easy the plant comes out of that material. And that's what makes it nice. So then you can put that in a container to store it for winter if it gets too cold. One other thing, Chow up here, he made these, and he wants me to show you what it is. And this is a guide for grafting. So you can put it on a 1-inch stem like this. Make your cut, and then you can make your cut on your scion using the opposite side, whichever way you prefer to do your saddle. Came up with another method of cutting the V. So he's got a DeWalt clamp that he's got a V cut, and it's really sharp. And so you just do this right into your cutting and cut your V on your cutting. Exactly. I'm going to turn this over to Dave because we're getting low on time. We good? Any other questions?
So the purpose of the talk today is easier for repotting, isn't it?
It's also what the doctor said is that root system is your most important part of the plant. If you don't have good roots, you're not going to have a good growing plant. So you saw the picture a couple back where the seedling that I got from him, how nice and fat that root ball was, only about the size of a pineapple, but yet it's over 6 feet tall and it's growing in a bucket.
He brought up a lot of good points about how the seeds fall naturally. So plumerias should be growing on the side because it will go up and down. He brought a lot of good points in that video. About the wind, making it stronger.
I agree. I actually hadn't seen this video. I saw the shorter version on YouTube, and when I ordered it, I didn't realize it was going to be as long as it was, and that's why I kind of cut it right there at the containers. But I liked the first half of it where everything that he talked about still applied to Plumeria. Did you see my, it is a good question. I have the luck of having it on concrete in my patio. If it's out in the field, something like that, then you've got the holes there again. You can always pierce the holes and put a stake through the bottom of the container. Some of the ones I have stakes in them, but I just run the stake to the bottom of the container. But this thing is pretty sturdy because they fill this up with soy sauce, and they're allowed to stack 4 high on a pallet. And then they shrink wrap it all together, but these are fairly sturdy once they're full and heavy. Anything else? No, we could always get some plastic spray paint. I have orange Home Depot buckets that I've done too, but as soon as you look at black buckets, then you're paying $6 or $7 a bucket, and then you're back to the same old nursery thing again. I think so. It's all aesthetics if you don't care.